The world of high-end cars has always been filled with luxury, secrecy, and strict control by manufacturers. Among these brands, Bugatti stands at the very top. Known for producing some of the fastest and most expensive cars in the world, Bugatti has built a reputation not just for performance, but also for tight control over how its cars are repaired and maintained. But recently, something unusual has started to happen. A new trend is growing, and it is challenging this control. The situation has become even more interesting with the involvement of two well-known YouTubers, Matt Armstrong and Mark McCann. These creators are not just making videos. They are stepping into a space that was once only controlled by manufacturers. The story begins with a broken Bugatti and a risky decision that could change how people look at owning and repairing hypercars. This is not just about one car. It is about a shift in the entire automotive world, where knowledge, connections, and confidence are slowly breaking old systems. Mark McCann made headlines when he spent around £1.1 million on a broken Bugatti Veyron. For most people, even buying a normal car is a big decision, but spending over £1 million on a car that does not even work sounds almost unbelievable. The car had a serious issue. Its gearbox was completely damaged. It had no reverse gear and had been sitting unused for 3 years. Normally, such a car will be sent straight to Bugatti's official service network, where repairs are handled under strict rules and very high costs. In this case, Bugatti reportedly quoted around £300,000 just to replace the gearbox. That alone shows how expensive it is to maintain such a vehicle. However, this was not just any Veyron. It was a rare Mansa-modified version, designed with unique features and customized for a wealthy owner. When working properly, the car could be worth around £1.6 million. So even in its broken state, it still held massive value and potential. Instead of directly trusting Bugatti, Mark McCann made a surprising move. He reached out to Matt Armstrong, a YouTuber known for rebuilding damaged and high-end cars. This decision alone says a lot about how things are changing. In the past, owners of such expensive cars would only trust official service centers. But now, independent builders like Matt are gaining respect and attention. Matt Armstrong is already working on rebuilding a crashed Bugatti Chiron, which is an even newer and more complex car than the Veyron. What makes his work even more interesting is that Bugatti has not officially supported his project. In fact, the company has publicly expressed concerns about independent repairs. Despite that, Matt has continued his work and built a network of specialists who can help with such difficult projects. This is why Mark trusted him enough to ask for advice before going ahead with the purchase. That moment, choosing a YouTuber over the manufacturer, shows a big shift in trust and influence. During their conversation, Matt Armstrong gave practical advice based on his experience. He explained that even in the worst case, where a full gearbox replacement would cost £300,000, the total investment would still be around £1.4 million. Compared to the car's potential value of £1.6 million, there was still room for profit. But more importantly, Matt pointed out that independent specialists might be able to repair the gearbox for much less, possibly around £150,000. This kind of knowledge is powerful because it opens up new options. It shows that owners do not always have to rely on the manufacturer's expensive solutions. Independent experts, connections, and creative problem-solving can offer alternatives. This is exactly what is making companies like Bugatti uncomfortable. Their control has always depended on being the only reliable option. But now, that idea is slowly being challenged by people who are willing to learn, experiment, and share their work publicly. Another important part of this story is a growing network behind these projects. Matt Armstrong is not working alone. He has built connections with different specialists, including fabricators, welders, and part suppliers. Each person plays a role in solving problems that would normally require factory-level support. For example, structural repairs, carbon fiber work, and custom parts can all be handled by skilled individuals outside the official system. When these experts come together, they form an alternative support system. Mark McCann is now becoming part of this network as well. By reaching out to Matt, he is tapping into the same resources and knowledge. This shows how quickly such networks can grow. One successful project leads to another, and more people start to trust these independent solutions. Over time, this could reduce the need for official service centers, at least in certain situations. This shift is also being powered by the internet, especially platforms like YouTube. When creators document their work and share every step, they are spreading knowledge to a global audience. People can see how complex repairs are done, what tools are used, and what challenges come up. This removes the mystery that manufacturers often rely on. In the past, only a few trained technicians knew how to work on such cars. Now, that information is becoming more open. As more viewers learn about these processes, the idea of independent repair becomes less risky and more acceptable. This is one of the biggest reasons why the situation is changing so quickly. It is not just about one or two people. It is about a growing community that is learning together and pushing boundaries. Every successful rebuild adds confidence and encourages others to try similar projects. From Bugatti's point of view, this situation is not easy. The company has built its business model around exclusivity, control, and high service costs. These elements help maintain the brand's luxury image and ensure quality standards. However, when independent builders start achieving similar results, it raises questions. If a car can be repaired outside the official system for less money, why should owners always choose the expensive option? This does not mean Bugatti's services are not valuable, but it does create competition in a space where there was none before. The company may need to adapt to these changes in the future. It might have to find new ways to maintain its reputation while also accepting that independent expertise is growing. Ignoring this trend can make the gap even wider between manufacturers and the communities forming around them. In the end, this story is about more than just a broken Bugatti. It represents a larger change in how people think about ownership, repair, and control. The actions of Mark McCann and Matt Armstrong show that even in the world of multi-million-pound cars, traditional systems can be challenged. Their work is not just entertaining. It is influencing real decisions and creating new possibilities. As more people watch, learn, and participate, the balance of power may continue to shift. Manufacturers like Bugatti will always have their place, but they may no longer be the only option. This new era is being shaped by curiosity, skill, and the willingness to take risks. And as this movement grows, it will be interesting to see how far it goes and how the automotive world responds to it. One of the most interesting parts of this situation is how risk is being viewed differently by modern car buyers and enthusiasts. In the past, buying a broken hypercar would be seen as a terrible financial decision. The fear of unknown problems, extremely high repair costs, and lack of support would stop most people immediately. But creators like Mark McCann are showing that risk can also mean opportunity. By carefully analyzing the numbers and understanding the possible repair paths, they are turning what looks like a disaster into a calculated investment. This mindset is very different from traditional buyers who often prefer safety and certainty. Now, with access to online knowledge and experienced builders like Matt Armstrong, the risks feel more manageable. It is not just about fixing a car anymore. It is about creating content, building a story, and engaging an audience that follows every step. In many ways, the value is not only in the car itself, but also in the journey of rebuilding it. Another important factor is the role of rare customization companies like Mansory. Cars modified by Mansory are already unique, often built in very small numbers with special designs and materials. This makes repairs even more difficult because parts are not easily available. In the case of Mark's Veyron, the custom bodywork and interior add another level of complexity. Normally, this would push owners even more toward official channels, since they are seen as the safest option. However, the current situation shows that independent builders are becoming capable of handling even these rare modifications. With enough skill and the right connections, they can repair or even recreate custom parts. This is a major step forward because it means that even the most exclusive vehicles are no longer completely dependent on their original creators for maintenance and repair. The financial side of these projects also deserves close attention. When people hear about spending over £1 million on a broken car, it sounds extreme. But when you break down the numbers, the decision becomes more understandable. If the total cost of buying and repairing the car stays below its market value, there's a clear financial benefit. In addition, the exposure from creating content around the project can bring in revenue through views, sponsorships, and partnerships. This creates a new type of business model where the car is both an asset and a source of income. For YouTubers, this makes such risky purchases more appealing. They are not just spending money, they are investing in content that can pay for itself over time. This combination of entertainment and investment is one of the key reasons why we are seeing more projects like this appear online at the same time. These developments are slowly changing how the public views expertise. In the past, expertise was closely tied to official training and certification. If someone was not approved by the manufacturer, they were often not trusted with high-value vehicles. But now, real-world experience and proven results are becoming just as important. When people watch Matt Armstrong successfully rebuild complex cars, they start to see him as an expert, even without official approval. This shift in perception is powerful because it changes who people listen to and trust. It also opens the door for more individuals to enter the field and build their own reputation through skill and transparency. Over time, this could lead to a more open and competitive environment where knowledge is shared more freely. Looking ahead, it is clear that this trend is not going away anytime soon. As more creators take on ambitious projects and share their experiences, the idea of independent repair will continue to grow. Manufacturers like Bugatti may need to rethink how they interact with this new reality. They could choose to work more closely with independent builders or find ways to make their services more flexible and accessible. On the other hand, they might try to maintain strict control, which could create more tension between official systems and the growing independent community. Either way, the landscape is changing, and both sides will have to adapt in the end. What we are witnessing is a shift driven by passion, curiosity, and the power of shared knowledge. The story of a broken Bugatti Veyron is just one example, but it represents a much bigger movement. People are no longer satisfied with simply owning expensive cars. They want to understand them, work on them, and push the limits of what is possible. This new approach is making the automotive world more dynamic and unpredictable. It is bringing fresh energy into a space that was once very controlled and closed. And as more stories like this unfold, it will be exciting to see how far this movement can go and what new possibilities it will create for car enthusiasts around the world. Another layer to this story is how audience behavior is changing because of these kinds of projects. Viewers today are not just watching for entertainment. They are becoming more informed and more curious about how things work. When creators like Matt Armstrong show detailed rebuild processes, they are teaching millions of people about engineering, costs, and problem-solving without it feeling like a classroom lesson. This creates a deeper connection between the creator and the audience. People start to feel involved in the journey, almost as if they are part of the project. They wait for updates, discuss possible solutions in comments, and even share their own knowledge. This kind of engagement is very powerful because it turns a simple video into an ongoing story. In the case of Mark McCann's broken Bugatti Veyron, viewers are not just interested in whether the car gets fixed. They are interested in how it gets fixed, who helps, what challenges appear, and what decisions are made along the way. This level of involvement increases the impact of the project and makes it more than just a repair. It becomes a shared experience. There's also an emotional side to these stories that should not be ignored. Seeing a broken hypercar being brought back to life creates a sense of satisfaction and excitement. These cars are often seen as untouchable machines, owned by a very small group of people. When something goes wrong with them, they are usually hidden away in expensive workshops. But when someone decides to take on the challenge publicly, it changes the way people relate to these vehicles. It makes them feel more real and less distant. The process of rebuilding, step by step, creates tension and anticipation. Will the repair work? Will new problems appear? Will the costs stay under control? These questions keep viewers interested and emotionally invested. For creators like Mark McCann, this emotional engagement is just as important as the technical side because it keeps people coming back to watch more. Another important point is how these projects highlight the importance of teamwork. Even though individuals like Matt Armstrong are at the center of the story, they rely heavily on a network of skilled people. No single person can handle every part of such a complex rebuild. There are specialists for different tasks, such as engine work, electronics, carbon fiber repair, and custom fabrication. By working together, they can solve problems that would be impossible for one person alone. This teamwork shows that independent repair does not mean working without support. It means building a different kind of support system. Instead of relying on a single manufacturer, builders create their own networks based on trust and skill. This approach is flexible and can adapt quickly to new challenges, which is one of its biggest strengths at the same time. These developments are slowly changing how value is understood in the car world. Traditionally, value was linked mainly to originality and official history. A car that was repaired outside the manufacturer's network might lose value because it was not seen as pure or properly maintained. However, this idea is starting to evolve. If an independent rebuild is done to a high standard and fully documented, it can still be respected and even admired. In some cases, the story behind a car can add to its appeal. A Veyron that has been brought back from a broken state through a well-documented process may attract attention for reasons beyond its original condition. This does not mean that official repairs will lose their importance, but it does suggest that there is room for different paths, especially as more people begin to accept and trust independent work. Finally, this entire situation reflects a broader trend that goes beyond cars. In many industries, people are questioning traditional systems and exploring alternative ways of doing things. Access to information, online communities, and digital platforms are giving individuals more power than ever before. The automotive world is simply one example of this larger change. What is happening with Bugatti and independent builders is similar to what has happened in other fields where experts outside official institutions have gained influence through skill and openness. This does not mean that traditional companies will disappear, but it does mean that they will need to share space with new kinds of players. The balance between control and openness is shifting, and the outcome will likely shape the future of many industries, not just the world of hypercars. As this trend continues to grow, it is also starting to influence younger audiences who are watching these projects and forming new ideas about cars and careers. In the past, working on high-end vehicles like a Bugatti Veyron or a Bugatti Chiron might have seemed impossible without formal training or connections to big companies. But now, by watching creators like Matt Armstrong, many young viewers are realizing that there are different paths to gaining skills and building a reputation. They see that learning can happen through hands-on experience, online research, and collaboration with others. This is inspiring a new generation of builders who are more open to experimenting and less afraid of failure. Instead of waiting for approval from manufacturers, they are more willing to take initiative and create their own opportunities. Over time, this could lead to more innovation in the automotive space, as fresh ideas and new approaches begin to challenge traditional methods. Another important aspect is how these independent projects are changing the way stories are told in the automotive world. In the past, most car-related content focused on reviews, performance tests, or luxury experiences. While those are still popular, rebuild projects at a completely different dimension. They introduce uncertainty, problem-solving, and long-term storytelling. A rebuild is not finished in one video. It unfolds over weeks or months, sometimes even years. This keeps the audience engaged for a longer period and builds a stronger connection between the creator and the viewers. In the case of Mark McCann and his broken Veyron, every update becomes an important part of a larger story. People are not just watching a car being fixed, they are following a journey with ups and downs, risks and rewards. This storytelling style is one of the main reasons why such projects are becoming more popular and influential. There is also a growing sense of competition that comes from these developments. As more creators take on complex rebuilds, they naturally push each other to go further and do better. This competition is not always direct, but it creates an environment where innovation is encouraged. When one builder finds a new solution or shares a useful technique, others learn from it and try to improve on it. This cycle of learning and improvement benefits the entire community. It leads to better results, faster problem solving, and more efficient use of resources. At the same time, it keeps the content exciting for viewers, who get to see new ideas and approaches being tested in real time. This kind of progress will be much slower in a closed system where information is limited and controlled. However, it is also important to recognize that independent repair is not without its challenges. Working on cars at this level requires a high degree of skill, precision, and responsibility. Mistakes can be very costly, both financially and in terms of safety. Manufacturers like Bugatti have strict standards for a reason, and those standards help ensure that cars perform as expected. Independent builders must match or exceed these standards if they want to be taken seriously. This means investing in proper tools, learning advanced techniques, and paying close attention to detail. It also means being honest about limitations and knowing when to seek help from specialists. As the independent scene grows, maintaining quality will be one of its biggest challenges, because trust is built on consistent and reliable results in the long run. The relationship between manufacturers and independent builders may become more balanced. Instead of being completely separate, there could be more cooperation between the two sides. For example, Manufacturers might provide limited access to parts or information while still maintaining their core services. Independent builders, on the other hand, could continue to innovate and offer alternative solutions for certain types of repairs. This kind of balance would benefit car owners by giving them more choices and flexibility. It would also allow the industry to grow in a way that combines tradition with innovation. The current situation, driven by projects like the one involving Mark McCann and Matt Armstrong, may just be the beginning of a much larger transformation that will shape the future of automotive culture for years to come.